I used to think some questions were better left unasked. But that was before I saw my parents, the people I buried in my heart, alive on national television. My name's Daniel. And for 27 years, I lived believing my parents died in a car accident when I was 5. That's what my uncle told me. That's what the social workers said. That's what every photo and every memory led me to believe. But the thing about truth is, it doesn't stay buried forever. I grew up in a small town in Ohio. My Uncle Mike was the kind of man who didn't say much but worked hard. He was strict, quiet, and always kept to himself. He never talked about my parents. Whenever I asked, he'd shut me down with the same words, "Some things are better forgotten, Danny." I believed him. I had to, because I was just a kid who'd lost everything. Or so I thought. My life wasn't terrible, just empty. Uncle Mike raised me right, food on the table, school paid for, roof over my head. But love? Warmth? No. He treated me like a duty, not family. Still, I was grateful. I had no one else. Fast forward to last year. I was working night shifts at a small repair shop. Most nights were quiet, radio humming, tools clinking, the smell of oil in the air. Then one night, during a late dinner break, I turned on the TV in the break room. It was one of those reality interview shows, you know, the kind that features rich entrepreneurs talking about their journeys. I wasn't really paying attention until I saw her, a woman with familiar eyes, familiar voice. She smiled at the camera, introducing herself as Rebecca Dawson. I froze. My fork dropped, because I'd seen those eyes before, every time I looked in the mirror. And sitting beside her, a man with the same sharp jawline I'd always wondered about. His name flashed on the screen, Thomas Dawson, CEO of Dawson Pharmaceuticals. They were smiling, laughing, holding hands, happy, alive. My heart went still. I remember whispering, "That can't be them. They're dead." I rewound the clip, stared harder. Same eyes, same birthmark near her chin. The man, the way he tilted his head when he smiled. I remembered that from an old photo my uncle kept hidden in a drawer. It was them. My parents. Alive. I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking. I laughed nervously, trying to convince myself it was coincidence. But the voice in my head, that gut instinct, wouldn't let it go. I went home that night and tore through old boxes, photos, documents, everything I could find. That's when I realized something strange. There were no official death certificates, just photocopies, faded papers with no signatures. And suddenly, all the small things started to click. The way Uncle Mike avoided talking about them. The anger in his eyes whenever I mentioned my mom's name. How he refused to let me see my parents' graves. At the time, I thought he was protecting me from trauma. Now, I wasn't sure what he was protecting himself from. The next morning, I confronted him. He was sitting in his usual spot, coffee in hand, reading the paper. I stood there shaking, heart pounding. "Uncle Mike," I said. "I saw them." He looked up, frowning. "Saw who?" "My parents." His face went pale. He didn't say a word. "They're alive," I said louder. "On TV. Last night. Rebecca and Thomas Dawson. That's them, isn't it?" He set his cup down slowly. Then he looked me dead in the eye and said, "You need to forget what you saw." "Forget it? They're my parents. You told me they were dead." He sighed, rubbing his forehead. "Daniel, you don't understand." "Then make me understand," I yelled. He stood up, towering over me. His voice trembled, not with anger, with fear. "If you go looking for them, you'll destroy yourself." I stared at him. "Why would you say that?" He didn't answer. He just walked out of the room. That silence, it was worse than any lie. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept watching that TV clip again and again. My parents looked perfect, rich, elegant, adored by the public. But deep down, something felt off. If they were alive, why did they abandon me? Why did they fake their deaths? The next morning, I made up my mind. I was going to find them. I took a bus to Chicago, where their company headquarters was located. I had nothing but an old photo and a heart full of questions. When I got there, the building looked like something out of a dream. Glass towers, guards in suits, people who didn't even glance at me. I told the receptionist I was a relative. She smiled politely and said, "I'm sorry, sir, they're very busy. Do you have an appointment?" I didn't. So I waited outside, all day. Hours passed. Then around sunset, I saw them, walking out of the lobby, arm in arm, laughing. My parents, alive. I couldn't move. I just stood there, watching them walk toward a black car. The woman I thought was gone forever, my mother, stopped for a second to check her phone. Her profile was exactly as I remembered it. And then, she looked up. Her eyes met mine. For a split second, she froze. Then she turned away, quickly, like she didn't know me, like I was no one. That moment broke something inside me. I didn't call out. I didn't chase her. I just stood there as their car drove away, leaving me in the cold. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over. Because no mother looks at her child like that, unless she's hiding something much bigger than a lie. And I was going to find out what. I didn't go home that night. I sat on a bench outside their building until sunrise, my thoughts spinning faster than I could breathe. Why would they lie? Why would they leave me with Uncle Mike? Why pretend to be dead? By morning, I'd made up my mind. I wasn't leaving without answers. The next day, I returned dressed like one of their corporate employees. Cheap suit, borrowed tie, hair combed. I walked past the lobby pretending I belonged there. No one stopped me. Their offices were on the 18th floor. When the elevator doors opened, I froze again. Her voice. My mother's. She was in the hallway, laughing with someone on a phone call. I stood there, just a few steps away. My chest tightened. 22 years of confusion, loneliness, and pain all boiled up at once. When she turned, her smile faded. Her phone slipped from her hand. "Daniel," she whispered. That's when I knew she recognized me. For a moment, time stopped. She looked at me like she'd seen a ghost. I said quietly, "You know who I am." She took a step back, shaking her head. "You shouldn't be here." "I shouldn't be here? You faked your death. You left me behind. Why?" Tears welled up in her eyes. She whispered, "It wasn't supposed to be this way." Before I could ask more, a tall man walked in, my father. His voice was calm, but his face went pale when he saw me. He glanced at my mother, then at me. "Rebecca, who is this?" I clenched my fists. "You really don't remember me?" He didn't answer right away. His eyes softened, then hardened again. "Daniel," he said finally, voice low. It was the first time I'd heard him say my name. He motioned for her to go inside his office. I followed them. Once the door closed, I asked again, "Why? Why would you lie about dying?" My mother sat down, covering her face. My father stayed standing. He said, "We didn't have a choice." I laughed bitterly. "That's your excuse? You left a 5-year-old boy behind." "We were trying to protect you," he said. "From what?" He hesitated, then said something I'll never forget. "From us." I stared at him, not understanding. He sighed and sat across from me. Back then, our company was under investigation. Illegal drug trials, bribery, human testing, things that could destroy everything. We were involved, Daniel. Not directly, but enough to be targeted. He paused. We received threats, real ones. People wanted leverage. And you were the easiest target. I felt sick. "So you disappeared? Left me with Uncle Mike?" He nodded slowly. He was the only one we trusted. My mother whispered, "He was supposed to keep you safe, Daniel, until we could come back for you." I clenched my teeth. "Then why didn't you?" Her voice cracked. "Because by the time we could, you were already told we were dead. And Mike made us promise to stay away." Why would he do that? I asked. They exchanged a look, the kind that said they'd been carrying a secret too long. My father finally said, Mike hated us for what we did. We lied to the government. We made mistakes. He believed we didn't deserve to raise you. My mother added, he thought keeping you away would give you a normal life. That if you knew the truth, you'd end up hating us too. I shook my head. So instead, you just let me grow up thinking I was an orphan. Tears rolled down her face. Every birthday, every Christmas, I watched from a distance. I never stopped loving you. I didn't know what to feel. Anger, sadness, disgust, pity. It was all mixed together. Part of me wanted to scream. Part of me wanted to hug her. I stood up and said quietly, you talk about protecting me, but all you did was abandon me. My father whispered, you're right. He walked to the window, staring out at the skyline. We paid for our choices, Daniel. The company's clean now. We could have reached out, but by then, we were too ashamed. He turned to me. We thought you'd be better off without us. Silence filled the room. It was the kind of silence that weighs on your chest until you can't breathe. Then my mother said softly, please, let us explain everything. Not here. Come home with us tonight. Just one dinner. After that, if you never want to see us again, we'll understand. I didn't answer. Part of me wanted to walk away forever. But curiosity, that same fire that started all this, kept me standing there. I nodded once. That night, I went to their mansion. Every inch of it felt wrong. Polished, perfect, empty. Like the people living inside had buried every trace of who they used to be. Dinner was awkward. My father tried to make small talk. My mother kept forcing a smile that broke every few seconds. Then, halfway through, my father's phone rang. He excused himself. My mother leaned forward, whispering, there's something else you don't know. I frowned. What do you mean? She took a deep breath. Your uncle. He wasn't just protecting you. He was threatening us. My chest tightened. What are you talking about? Her voice trembled. He knew everything about our illegal research, the drugs, the money. He said if we ever tried to contact you, he'd go to the police. He told us he'd raise you himself, or he'd make sure we both went to prison. I felt my heart drop. So you let him control your son's life? She nodded, crying silently. We were cowards, Daniel. I know. At that moment, my father came back. His face was pale. He said, Mike's dead. I froze. What? He looked at me. We just got the call. Heart attack. For a long time, none of us spoke. Then something strange happened. A delivery boy knocked on the door with a sealed envelope. It was addressed to me. My father handed it to me. Inside was a letter, written in Uncle Mike's handwriting. My hands trembled as I unfolded it. It said, Danny, if you're reading this, I'm gone. You were never supposed to find out the truth, but maybe you deserve it now. Your parents didn't abandon you. I forced them to. I told them they'd go to prison if they came near you. I did it because I wanted to save you from their world. A world of greed and corruption that almost killed people. Maybe I went too far. Maybe I became the villain in your story. But I raised you because I loved you like my own son. I hope someday you'll understand. Mike. I read it over and over, tears blurring the words. That night, I couldn't speak. I left their house without saying goodbye. I walked through the empty streets until sunrise. All my life, I thought I'd been abandoned. Turns out, I'd been protected, just in the most painful way possible. My parents weren't innocent. My uncle wasn't evil. They were all just human, flawed, afraid. And for the first time, I realized the truth doesn't always set you free. Sometimes it just helps you understand why you were in chains. Weeks later, I visited Mike's grave. I stood there a long time, holding that letter. I whispered, I forgive you. Then I looked up at the sky and said, all of you. And for the first time in my life, I finally felt like I wasn't alone anymore. Moral: Sometimes the truth isn't about who lied. It's about who loved you enough to live with the lie. Speech Balloon, subscribe for more true stories that touch the heart and test the soul.